In this video, we bring you the latest controversy that has taken the F1 community by storm. The FIA's decision to shorten the DRS zones ahead of the Miami Grand Prix has sent shockwaves through the paddock, with one driver in particular, Max Verstappen, expressing his fury over the matter. As one of the most competitive and aggressive drivers on the grid, Verstappen never frees away from speaking his mind, and this latest development has certainly got him riled up. In a recent interview, Verstappen shared his thoughts on the matter, calling out the FIA for making the changes at the last minute and questioning the fairness of the decision. With the championship race between Verstappen and Hamilton already heating up, this new development has added an extra layer of intrigue and drama to the proceedings. As the drivers prepare to take on the challenging street circuit of Miami, all eyes will be on how they adapt to the new rules and regulations. So if you're a fan of high-octane racing and edge-of-the-seat action, be sure to join us as we bring you all the latest updates and insights into the world of F1. What are the DRS zones in F1? If you're new to the world of F1, you might be wondering, what exactly are the DRS zones that have caused such a stir among the drivers? DRS stands for Drag Reduction System, and it's a technology that's designed to give drivers an extra boost of speed on certain parts of the track. The way it works is simple. When a driver is within 1 second of the car in front of them, they're allowed to activate the DRS system. This opens a rear wing flap, reducing drag and allowing the car to go faster. However, the use of DRS is restricted to certain parts of the track known as DRS zones. These zones are marked by 2 lines on the track, and drivers are only allowed to activate the system within these boundaries. The FIA, which is the governing body of F1, can make changes to the DRS zones ahead of each race, depending on the layout of the track and other factors. And that's exactly what has caused the latest controversy in the F1 community, with the FIA's decision to shorten the DRS zones ahead of the Miami Grand Prix. So there you have it, a brief explanation of what DRS zones are in F1 and how they work. If you want to learn more about this fascinating sport and stay up to date with all the latest news and developments, be sure to subscribe to our channel. Now, let's move towards the controversial decision of FIA and the response of the world's favourite, Max Verstappen. Max Verstappen's response to FIA's last-minute change. So guys, FIA has done it again. They made another last-minute change. The FIA recently announced changes to the DRS zones ahead of the Miami Grand Prix, which has received mixed responses from drivers. Red Bull's Max Verstappen, who has been critical of DRS in the past, acknowledged that the shortened zones would make no difference to him since his car is much faster than the rest of the grid. However, he also suggested that the issue with overtaking is not just the DRS zone's length, but also the car's stiffness and weight, making it harder to follow closely and take different lines. When asked about the recent changes, Verstappen stated, "I would prefer, of course, that we could race without DRS, but that's not possible. If the car is faster, it doesn't really matter how long the zone is. You will get the car ahead." He also mentioned that in certain situations, even with DRS, overtaking can still be difficult due to the car's weight and suspension. Probably now, with people finding more and more downforce in the cars, it probably becomes a bit harder to follow as well. Lando Norris of McLaren, whose vehicle is one of the slower ones on the straights, praised the use of DRS and stated they need every chance they have to fight with other teams. McLaren's vehicle is one of the slower ones on the straights. Norris admitted that more downforce could make racing harder. However, he also pointed out that there are many other elements that can help to overtake, including the ability to take curbs and varied lines, both of which are not achievable with the vehicles that are now in use. The modifications to the DRS zones have been met with a mixed response overall, with some drivers claiming that it is not the solution to the problem of unsafe overtaking. The comments made by Verstappen shed light on the continuing argument regarding the use of DRS and whether or not it is actually required in today's Formula 1. Although some drivers, such as Norris, believe that it is necessary for slower teams to compete, Verstappen is of the opinion that the cars themselves are a more significant impact on how difficult it is to pass other drivers. Why is FIA making last-minute changes more frequently? The FIA has been known to introduce last-minute changes to the rules and regulations of Formula 1, much to the chagrin of teams and drivers alike. These changes can range from alterations to the race calendar to adjustments to the technical specifications of the cars themselves. One example of this is the recent announcement of changes to the DRS zones ahead of the Miami Grand Prix. The decision to shorten the zones was met with mixed responses from drivers, with some expressing frustration at the lack of time to adapt their strategies to the new rules. This is not the first time the FIA has made last-minute adjustments, and it is highly doubtful that it will be the last time. Others say that these rapid changes break the delicate balance of the sport and unjustly favour certain teams, while others believe that the sport needs to evolve and adapt in order to remain competitive. While some may claim that the sport needs to evolve and adapt in order to remain competitive, others may disagree. No matter how one chooses to look at the situation, it cannot be denied that the FIA wields a significant amount of influence on the Formula One racing community. As the organisation that is in charge of regulating the sport, they have the authority to implement broad reforms that have the potential to significantly affect the results of individual races and even a whole season. While some may argue that the FIA should exercise caution when making such changes, others believe that they have a responsibility to keep the sport fresh and exciting for both drivers and fans alike. Ultimately, it is up to the FIA to strike a balance between these two competing priorities and ensure that Formula One remains the pinnacle of motorsport. What made Max Verstappen furious in the practice session before Miami race? Max Verstappen was visibly furious during the practice session of the Miami GP as a problem with his car caused him to lose valuable time on the track. The defending Formula One champion's frustration was audible over the team radio as he complained about a recurring issue with his headrest. "Mate, my fucking headrest again. I'm just stuck all the time in my head," he vented to his race engineer. It was not the first time that Verstappen had problems with his headrest. In fact, it was the second time. In point of fact, during the previous weekend in Baku, he encountered a similar problem which prompted the FIA to investigate the state of his car. In spite of the concerns, there were not discovered to be any substantial problems. Nonetheless, the topic did come up once more during the practice session in Miami. After Max Verstappen had returned to the pits, the technical representative for the FIA was spotted conducting a thorough inspection of the Red Bull garage to ensure that all safety procedures were being adhered to. In the meantime, Anthony Davidson, a commentator for Sky Sports, hypothesised that the tether that is attached to the back of Verstappen's harness device could be becoming hooked, which would temporarily impair the driver's view and cause annoyance. Christian Horner, the principal of the Red Bull team, later verified that the tether was, in fact, the source of the problem and that they were working on a solution as quickly as possible. The trouble that Verstappen was having was annoying, but it was nothing compared to the accident that Charles Leclerc had, which wrecked his Ferrari and caused severe damage. How confident is Max Verstappen for Miami race? Red Bull Racing and Max Verstappen are expected to dominate the Miami Grand Prix weekend with strong performances in both single lap speed and longer race runs. Verstappen, in particular, is keen to bounce back after disappointing performance in Azerbaijan. During Friday's practice sessions, Verstappen set the fastest time of the day with a 1:27.930 and recorded the fastest time in every sector. He was 0.385 seconds faster than Carlos Sainz and almost half a second faster than Charles Leclerc, his closest rival. Red Bull's speed advantage comes mainly from the RB19's incredible top speed of 341 km an hour, which is almost unbeatable by other teams. The straight line speed makes a difference in the race because, with DRS, overtakes can be made. The Ferrari team, Red Bull's closest rival, seem to have a quick car for qualifying but not a strong race car. Mercedes is not far behind, but is also coming up short in terms of top speed in Miami. Lando Norris, from McLaren, however, seems to be keeping up with the top teams over one lap, settling between the Aston Martins and Mercedes. In terms of race pace, Red Bull is again the team to beat. Verstappen's long runs were a second faster than his nearest rival on the same tyre. Ferrari's Carlos Sainz seems to be in better shape than his teammate Leclerc, but the Spaniard did his long runs initially on the soft tyre. Mercedes' lap time shows promise compared to Ferrari, but the team could not do many laps due to Leclerc's crash. Alonso, from the Aston Martin team, however, was able to drive similar times to Sainz on the hard tyre. But don't forget about Sergio Perez, as he also has his eyes on the championship of the Miami Grand Prix, and currently he is one of the strongest rivals of his own teammate, Max Verstappen. Overall, it looks like Red Bull Racing and Max Verstappen are in a strong position to dominate the Miami Grand Prix weekend. Ferrari is their closest rival, but they may fall into their usual trap of having a quick car for qualifying, but not a strong race car. Mercedes is not far behind, but is lacking in terms of top speed compared to the other teams. Lando Norris, from McLaren, seems to be keeping up with the top teams over one lap, settling between the Aston Martins and Mercedes. So it will be a great race to watch, and we assure no one will be able to leave their seats for even a second as positions change in a matter of milliseconds in this race format. So the last-minute changes made by the FIA just before the practice session of the Miami GP left Max Verstappen and Red Bull furious. This is not the first time the FIA has made last-minute changes, and it's understandable why it can be frustrating for teams and drivers who have already put in a significant amount of effort and resources in preparing for the race. Max Verstappen, who is well known for his fierce competitiveness and unwavering commitment to victory, was naturally frustrated by the circumstances. Because he is a skilled driver with a track record of success, the last thing he wants is for things outside of his control to impact his chances of winning. Nevertheless, Max and the Red Bull crew continue to have faith that they will be able to emerge triumphant in the Miami Grand Prix despite the setback. Due to the fact that Max and Hamilton will be competing against one each other in the forthcoming race, fans may anticipate that it will be an interesting one. It will be interesting to see how Max and the Red Bull team perform in light of the alterations that were made at the 11th hour by the FIA. Will they be able to quickly adapt to new circumstances and emerge victorious in order to maintain their dominant position? Only time will tell, but one thing we can guarantee is that the race will be full of thrills and joy, and we urge all of you to make sure that you don't miss a single second of the race. Anyways, regardless of the outcome, one thing is for sure: Max Verstappen and Red Bull will continue to push the limits and strive for excellence. They are a force to be reckoned with, and it will be fascinating to see how the rest of the season plays out. So guys, thanks for tuning in to today's video. It's been a wild ride with plenty of twists and turns, just like the world of Formula 1 itself. We hope you enjoyed our deep dive into the fiery reaction of Max Verstappen over the FIA's last-minute changes and his team's determination to come out on top at the Miami GP 2023. But the excitement doesn't stop here. With each race, we're witnessing history in the making as the top teams and drivers battle it out for the ultimate prize, the F1 Championship. So make sure to hit that like button if you found our discussion informative and thought-provoking. And if you want to stay up to date on all the latest news from the thrilling world of Formula 1, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Remember, it's not just about who crosses the finish line, but the journey that gets them there. So fasten your seatbelts, hold on tight, and get ready for the ride of your life. We'll be back with more exhilarating updates, gossip, and analysis soon. Until then, keep your engines revving and your spirits high, and stay tuned for more thrilling news from the world of F1.